Topic number 3 in the co-main event. I know a lot of you are chomping at the bit because this was a great fight as well. Dustin Poirier went out and scored a great win over Rafael Fiziev, when a lot of people seem to have counted him out. He was more than a 2-1 underdog heading in. Did the performance make you believe that Gaethje can still be a champion in the lightweight division? Leading off is Fada.
You know, who's to say he can? I think the thing with Dustin Gaethje, he's had some key losses that have affected him, and they've been, you know, when you look at his loss to Khabib, loss to Charles Oliveira, it's been in the grappling department. And when you look at who's champion right now, it's Islam Makhachev, and he's a very talented grappler himself. But the thing about Dustin Gaethje, you know you're going to be in a tough fight when you're fighting Dustin Gaethje. Win or lose, the guy does damage. Even back then, when you look at his loss to Dustin Poirier, he was able to do some damage to Dustin Poirier. And then you look at his fight against Charles Oliveira, he was able to drop Oliveira. Now, I know, granted, people are going to say that so did Michael Chandler. He was able to drop Charles Oliveira as well. But, you know, Gaethje does damage. He's a tough fight no matter what. And he looked like he was getting stronger against Fiziev. I think that was also a very close fight. That's a different discussion, because I think there can also be a case for Fiziev rounds 1 and 2. But I can also see how Dustin Gaethje wins. He finished out the fight really strong, and I think 5 rounds he was on his way to kind of winning that fight if it was a 5-round fight. But regardless, he had a very good performance. I thought Dustin Gaethje looked very good against Fiziev, showed that he's still part of the top of the division. I think you run it back with Dustin Poirier. I think he needs to get over that hump, because him and Dustin Poirier have had that issue again, losing to the grapplers, losing to Oliveira, losing to Khabib. Those two guys need to fight. I think it's the perfect fight to make right now. And if you can get past Dustin Poirier, I think you can start putting his name in the title conversations again. Before everyone goes crazy, yes, if Beneil Dariush beats Charles Oliveira, he's next. I thought Beneil should have gotten the title shot anyway. But I'm saying, you know, if they match them up after Beneil fights.
Fada, if Oliveira beats Beneil, do they run that back with Makhachev so soon? Or do you think he would still need one more?
Yeah, no, I think he could still need one more. I mean, Gaethje said he's open to rematching Oliveira. No, I don't know how much that would make sense and what you do with Dustin Poirier. So it's a lot of factors that play into it. But he's willing to rematch Oliveira as well. I know he wants that one back. But to answer your initial question of whether Dustin Gaethje could be champion again, the champion again seems to be someone who's got really good grappling. And that's kind of been what has happened to Gaethje and what has happened to Dustin Poirier, both former interim champions, but why they haven't been able to get over that hump and be undisputed champ is because the guys that hold the belts just happen to be really, really good grapplers.
Mike, what did you think of Gaethje's performance? Can he be a champ again? And here's another one I'm going to add to you. You know, a lot of times when someone like a Makhachev or someone comes in, like someone's a steamroller, right? And then all of a sudden a fighter breaks them down, shows that they're just human like the rest of us. It's like the rest of the division gets excited. I'll give you an example. Hamza Chimaev destroying, then Gilbert Burns really, really tests them. And now a lot of people are like, give me Chimaev. I'll take on Chimaev. You know, so Makhachev comes in. He's been steamrolling, but that fight versus Volkanovski, I think a lot of lightweights got excited at the prospects of their chances versus Makhachev.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess your first question, I thought Gaethje looked solid in there. I think this fight was a testament to his evolution for what we've seen earlier in his career and to Trevor Whitman's coaching. I mean, he was really struggling with that speed advantage in the first couple of rounds there. Like, it was causing him a lot of problems, but he was able to adjust. You could see he had a lot of the combos Fiziev was throwing his way, well scouted. He just wasn't able to get out of the way earlier on, but he was able to do that better and better as the fight wore on, and then he was able to time his offense a little bit better. It was still the chaotic, bloody type of Dustin Gaethje fight we have come to love and expect, but a little bit more refined from him, which I think is what he needs if he wants to be winning fights like this, especially against like the next crop of up-and-coming contenders at lightweight. So yeah, a solid win for him. I agree with Farah there. I think there's a case that he maybe did lose this fight round 1 and 2. I think the judge who scored round 3, 10-8 for Gaethje, I didn't necessarily see it that way. That's what led to a draw on one card. Otherwise, it would have been a split decision win for him rather than a majority decision. But nevertheless, I don't have a huge problem with him losing here. Question 2, can he become champion? I mean, I think with that style, he can beat anyone on any given night, right? Like, it depends on what the opponent is trying to do in there. He can suck them into his game, and he's able to fend off takedowns and things like that. He is able to, dig down deeper than a lot of people in this weight class, and he could win any of these fights. I think anyone in the top 5. So I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't necessarily, for the reasons Farah explained there with, you know, the grapplers at the top of this weight class, I wouldn't necessarily put my money on it, but I think he has a chance. And your third question there, I think that's a great point as well. I do think that when you look at the other fighters in this division, now looking at Islam Makhachev, you look at him as a little more human. I mean, I think if you're Dustin Poirier, Gaethje, Dariush, you see that fight and maybe you saw a little bit more flaws in his game. Gaethje said at the post-fight just the other night, like, he's, as you know, talking about Makhachev, he's like Khabib, but he's not Khabib. We've seen him lose before. We've seen him get finished before. Even though it was a lifetime ago and that was a young Islam Makhachev, like, just knowing that there's that footage out there and knowing it's possible does a lot for a fighter's confidence, right? And you don't see, like, against Khabib, we saw so little flaws. You know, people for years would hang on to him eating like one hard punch from Michael Johnson and be like, hey, maybe he can be rocked or something, but it never really panned out that way. So I think that's an interesting fight for Gaethje, especially his defensive grappling against Islam. It would be compelling for sure, but he's got a little more work to do. I mean, I think absolutely agree with Farah. Him versus Dustin Poirier, the rematch is the fight to make. I'd love to see that 5 rounds. The last one they did in Gaethje's backyard in Arizona. Let's do this one in New Orleans at the Smoothie King Center in Dustin Poirier's backyard. Run it back. I think that would be a perfect fight. And then we see how this plays out with Oliveira and Dariush. It seems like Makhachev's not going to fight till October in Abu Dhabi. You know, if Volkanovski beats Yair Rodriguez in the meantime and Dariush loses, like, you never know. Maybe we just get that rematch right away on Islam's end. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. But if you're looking at the lay of the land at lightweight, it's got to be Poirier versus Gaethje too. And that's a hugely important fight. And then you kind of see how everything shakes out from there.
Yeah, look at Mike Bond, man, handling all the questions. That's why he's an MMA media titan. He even throws in the name of the arena. These arenas change names every other week. So
how could you forget the Smoothie King Center? I mean, that's like an easy one.
All right, how about you, Goes? Yeah, we're coming to you now. The performance. I know I did the watch along with you, but still, man, that was one hell of a fight. We've still been buzzing about it.
Yeah, speaking of Smoothie Kings, I think I got that title too, man. But that Justin Gaethje, like, yes, I do think he has what it takes to get a title. But I think what he's battling is just the situation, like the other two laid out. That it could be a really long wait, depending on who beats who. He could be waiting for a while, and he's getting older, right? But what I did like about this Justin Gaethje was he just seemed pissed off, man. I think he was pissed off that they tried to put him in that situation where somebody was going to try and get over on him. And what he really did was he really just went back and somewhat reinvented himself, but still staying true to himself, right? We saw him finally use his wrestling. We saw him kind of use patience, right? We talk about Mike Tyson back in the day. He was an aggressive fighter, but the reason he was successful was he knew when to be aggressive and when not to be. He didn't just come out when the bell rang and start throwing punches like a maniac, right? Justin Gaethje was very patient in round 1. And there were times where I think he could have been dragged into an old Justin Gaethje type fight. And I think he kind of pulled back a little bit. And I think that really benefited him when he mixed in those leg kicks. He mixed in the defense, right? Finally, a little bit of wrestling. He just needs to keep evolving this version of Justin Gaethje. And I agree with Mike. I think he listened to his corner a lot in this one too. The patience, the leg kicks, the uppercuts that were so massive and they were landing right on the button. The confidence, he is a hard dude to deal with. If the evolution of this Justin Gaethje continues, I believe that he could do that.
Yeah, and another thing too, there's one thing to have leg kicks in your arsenal and utilize them. There's another thing to use them, and then a lot of fighters will get away from them, and Gaethje brought them back, you know? So I think maybe that goes to what you were saying, Goes. He was calm, he was patient, and it all came together. That uppercut, that collar tie was amazing. He kept sneaking it in there, and he just bludgeoned Fiziev's face. And Fiziev's going to become a lot better as well because of this fight.